You're listening to Talk Star Wars, a proud member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Check us out on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Talk Star Wars is a production of Emotionally 14. For fantastic podcasts, video series, blog posts, and much more, visit us on the web at emotionally14.com and enjoy content for the permanently teenaged. Hello there, and welcome back to Talk Star Wars, an Emotionally 14 production. I'm your host, Rob Wade, and I'm joined, as always, by my constant co-host and co-pilot, Brad Homer-Barnes. Hello.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
I say always. Of course, we took last week off.
Yeah, I was in another county.
That's fair.
And you were locked in carbonite.
Yes, this is true. Yeah, I mean, everything's
you
fine.
You locked yourself in, though.
I did, yeah. It was one of those, it's one of those ones where something like that happens and you go, how did that even, I don't know. I stepped into this thing, I thought I'd left the door ajar. And, thankfully it's been warmer, so I've been able to thaw out and I'm back now.
I've heard some people say it was the best episode of Storage Hunters I've ever seen.
But in many ways, the most surreal. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
Because that show is bizarre at the best of times,
It's like a cross between a boot fair or a yard sale, if you're listening on that side of a pond, and an 80s coked up wrestling promo. Yeah,
that's a good kind of, it lands somewhere, but maybe not in the middle, but it lands on that spectrum for sure. Yeah. Well, the one that always gets me about those shows, I realize we're going to tease some SW in a minute. Don't worry, everybody's used to this by now.
Yeah.
The one that always gets me is when they go, "Oh, I've just got this unit for $4, and I hope there's something good." A first edition Mark Twain. I've actually seen that episode verbatim.
Amazing.
It was incredible.
Someone who can afford a first edition Mark Twain but can't afford
the storage unit. Fee. Exactly. Couldn't just go in and go, "Oh, I'm running out of money for the storage. I'll just sell the book."
Auction this copy of £1 million banknote, I'll be away. But no,
exactly.
I totally forgot it was fair.
Brilliant. All this Apple stock. From 1997. And, oh man, I'm going to have to, you could sell that and just buy the company that makes the storage lockers.
I can't find my copy of God Save the Queen on EMI. Oh, you don't think it was in the storage locker, do you?
No, what typical. Why do they have to make it so easy to reach that somebody could find it in a lazily placed edit? It just, you know what I mean?
Oh, man.
It's pretty funny. So, hello, everybody in listener land, and buongiorno in particular to our lovely listeners in Italy who helped us chart in iTunes this week.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing.
As high at its peak as number 12 in film and TV.
In film and TV.
The next day.
That's amazing.
Free fall. But that day, at its peak.
Well, we must have done something that especially appealed to the Italian audience. I just can't think what.
Take a week off, it seems. Maybe they appreciate the self-love, the self-care,
Maybe they took the chance to catch up on some older episodes while we were having a week off.
That's entirely possible. I didn't dig into the numbers to see what the sort of breakdown was, but that makes sense. I mean, maybe they went, oh, man, last week's one must be a real belter if they're having to recover.
That's amazing. Thank you, Italian fans or Italy fans.
Grazie mille.
Please keep listening and let us know exactly what caused the spike in ratings.
That would be wonderful to know because,
we'd love to know. Thank you, guys. It's lovely to know that we've got listeners all over as well.
It's really cool that we get some.
I'm assuming a lot of you listening in what isn't your first language, which, as someone who only speaks one language, I find amazingly impressive.
Yeah, totally. It's always kind of. It's easy to forget, I think, how we're quite lucky in the sense that obviously America has kind of been one of the really big drivers of podcasting and the related tech. So, understandably, a lot of the podcasts are English speaking or just plain, sort of native English in general. But yeah, it is quite, it's always quite impressive just to see the spread. In fact, I'm going to have a look now and see if I can figure out.
But I mean, you're fluent in French. Do you actually listen to any French podcasts, French language podcasts?
No, my limit is French comic books. I read some of those occasionally.
Okay.
But that tends to be rather than I don't read. For instance, I don't read like super. It's not like I don't read that sort of thing. I read specifically stories that you can't get in English, because they've been written in French originally.
The French comic scene is amazing. I know Pat Mills, easily one of my favourite comic writers, does a lot of French work.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very 2000 AD vibe to a lot of French comics.
Yeah. It's
13 was a big one to come out of France.
Yes,
I think.
that was probably one of the more popular ones. I only ever read that. I think what little I read of it was in English, was translated. But I enjoyed it. But I say my limit is kind of the occasional film and or TV and comic books. And I haven't really read a book in French for probably half my life.
Okay.
No, a bit less than that, because see, I'm 35 now and would have done it for university, so 13 years, I guess. Yeah. But I digress, of course.
We do. It's kind of what we do.
It's been known. Yeah, it's certainly.
So leave it. The Italians love it. We'll keep doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's huge in Italy. So let's just stick with the formula. So our first message comes from Vesuvi, who I really hope got one of the memos I left around the internet about the fact we were taking a week off, because I wouldn't want her to feel, in any way kind of excluded from that. But I know she's not on. As far as I know, she's not on Twitter. I did. It's to the degree of how much I kind of value Vesuvi's listening in particular. I almost emailed her personally just to let her know, but I decided I did put a message up on emotionally14.com on the Monday, so I felt I would, I know she checks that, so I figured she'd probably see it there. So I decided to go with that. But Vesuvi was kind enough to write in about episode 172, which was the week before last, obviously our last episode. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Brad.
Cool. You're welcome, Vesuvi.
Since Rob mentioned Chernobyl, so that's the highly rated series that has recently concluded, I might try to squeeze that into my massive must-watch list. It sounds excellent and is highly rated. Yeah, it really is.
Don't buy your underpants in Pripyat because Chernobyl fall out.
Yeah, so I've heard. On the subject of certain online outlets purposefully drumming up non-existent grumbles to gain clicks, did you read or hear about the rumor that Disney employees were forbidden from mentioning the word youngling at Galaxy's Edge? It was quickly disproved, yet people still keep pushing it as if it's a thing. It ain't. Cool your jets, people. Couldn't agree more.
Not allowed to use the word youngling.
That was the rumor for about a day, I think. I'm not sure. I suppose it was. There's this. I have a theory. My theory is that there's a.
These are always good.
There's a perception that Disney is has distanced themselves from any mention of the prequels. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, they've done films that are kind of in those eras since the buyout, but they've not really done much in the way of touching back on story threads from the prequel era, which is fair to say. It is worth pointing out they are adding some more Clone Wars episodes.
Yeah, they intentionally distanced from the prequels for Force Awakens, but I think they've come back to them pretty hard and fast, especially with Clone Wars stuff.
Yeah, Clone Wars, the book, there's some books, comics. I mean, Jedi Legion. Lost is a huge step back into that era.
Huge deal. Huge deal.
And it's good.
I think they're doing a very clever move by doing Clone Wars, Armada and Legion in my wheelhouse as well.
100%, yeah.
Because the guys who were watching the cartoons as kids are getting into the age they're coming up like 1920 now, so perfect age.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a very smart move. It's also, it makes sense both from that point of view and also because it's a setting you can see translating really well to the tabletop, just having that kind of droids versus clones. I'm really excited for Armada Clone Wars because there's a lot of big battleships in big ship battles even in the TV show. Yeah, I mean, a Malevolence would be lovely if they can do a Super Star Destroyer. They can do the Malevolence. That'd be pretty cool. I can imagine that one being significantly fun to see hit the table and then crush the table. But I would, I certainly when I've looked at Legion. Now, my thinking is if I'm going to get a core, I will wait and get the Clone Wars one. That's if, obviously, I will probably most likely have access to one if I don't choose to get my own.
Let's be honest, Emotionally 14 has quite a lot.
It is, yes. There is
Reservoir of Legion stuff.
There is a rather large collection available to E14 contributors should they wish to play. And,
totally,
we do. And actually, since last recording, we have played.
Oh, we did a live show, didn't we?
We did, yes. In Sittingbourne, Kent, which is, as hip and happening as it sounds.
Yeah.
Which is to say, it was that day.
It's, but our next gig's a bit of a step up. But, Broadside was a really good day.
Yes. It was fun.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. Obviously, Dave from Emotionally 14, who's done Firewin already and Crazy Train a couple of times. Yep. It was his baby. He organised our whole show, and we did a live show of Firewin already there, which had the Dream Team, the Avant-Garde Legion of Doom of Krennic and Vader on the Empire side. Krennic's so cool in that game.
Is. It did present a lot of fun opportunities. Whenever he was trying to do something cool, Vader would just step in before and just be like, nope, I got this, don't worry. Which is sort of how you'd imagine it going down, I think.
Yeah, totally.
If were it to really happen.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a good fun game.
Yeah, it was good fun. Anyway, Vesuvi continues. In regards to Australian Dave's query regarding sequels to Solo, I'd love to see a Disney Plus TV series focusing on Crimson Dawn with a secondary focus on the Hutt clan.
Absolutely.
As Brad mentioned, I would love to see Kira's character explored. Oh my. And
if you know what I mean.
Perhaps eventually her being the one to strand Maul on Malachor.
Ooh.
That could be fun.
Okay, I'm down for that. Yeah. That sounds good.
Han and Chewbacca would only be recurring characters. I still think it's worth seeing Han execute a couple of successful schemes for Jabba before his luck starts to change, prompting his debts accrual to the point where we see him in A New Hope. And, of course, a few more Lando scenes would be delectable.
Well, wouldn't it be?
Well, I mean, Donald Glover can, basically turn up anywhere and I'm good. But the primary motif would be how Kira gains Maul's trust, rising through the ranks, eventually negating the former Sith influence when she leaves him high and dry. I even have a reasonable twist in mind, but I won't mention it here, just on the off chance Lucasfilm taps my idea.
Dream big.
She loves her thesaurus, Vesuvi, Knight of the Commonwealth. P.S. I'd also love to hear what you both thought of the imagery from the recently released trailer and 12 or so minutes of gameplay footage from Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. I've attached a vidcap of one of the opening scenes I thought looked rather compelling, of Cal Kestis and BD-1 on an algae-laced AT-AT in a Kashyyykian swamp, if memory serves, before taking control of it. I've just realised I forgot to attach that, but it was a really nice picture.
It's a good description.
Yes, she did a great job.
Yeah, Fallen Order. The trailer didn't sway me either way. To be honest, I was already on board for Fallen Order. So I thought it looked cool. I didn't need to be sold on it. As long as it didn't look absolutely awful, then I was still going to be on board for it. So they were preaching to the choir with me.
I think trying to get my timeline right. By the time, when Vesuvi mailed in, the trailer had just dropped. Since then, we've had the E3 kind of slightly more extended gameplay session.
So, 15-minute play session, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was all, I think, alpha footage. The actual gameplay, because a lot of people were kind of pointing out things like the lightsaber. There was no glow on it; it was just a blue tube.
Yeah, but it's alpha footage.
Didn't really have a lot of hitting power. But then obviously that could be balanced.
That's not what alpha footage is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think people forget easily that sort of thing. As somebody who's worked on software projects, it's easy to forget. Is alpha footage can look rough, and that's okay. And actually, I thought even despite it looking rough in alpha footage, the close-up stuff, the backdrops and the environments looked incredible.
I feel it good, and I think it's only going to improve. No, I was happy with what we saw.
Yeah.
It felt very Uncharted, which is what I was expecting it to feel like.
Interestingly, I've heard... So there was obviously the E3 presentation, I believe... The trailer, not the trailer, the gameplay thing was shown during the Microsoft keynote. So for Xbox, because Sony weren't there, Nintendo don't have it, and EA do their own separate thing. So I'm guessing, I believe it was shown during the Microsoft keynote, and apparently since then, a lot of interviews have been done where they've seen a bit more of the game kind of in play. And apparently it's also got a kind of, you go around the galaxy completing missions and it's not entirely linear. So people have been kind of likening it to Metroid, like Metroid Prime, where you sort of fly to different planets. So it's kind of, basically the long and the short is it's got the Uncharted-y elements in the gameplay, like the actual kind of on the planet gameplay, but there's also an element of, it's not entirely linear. So it's not just a story you follow from start to finish. You can tackle different quests in different orders and stuff.
It's kind of like structured something like The Witcher then.
Kind of, yeah.
You've got a main storyline going on, but you can...
I don't know. Yeah,
I do it and tackle it in the order you want to.
That's sort of the impression I'm getting, yeah. Which sounds pretty cool. And I've been made to understand that the combat has not so much... It's not like Dark Souls in the sense that it's stupidly difficult, but it's like Dark Souls in the sense that you can kind of approach the order you do stuff in a kind of slightly more, slightly less structured way. And there is a little bit of precision to things like they showed off that things like blocking blaster bolts, you have to have the button at the right time and stuff. You can't just,
can't just human shield it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like I think Force Unleashed, I think you auto blocked maybe.
Yeah.
Battlefront, you certainly do. If you're a Jedi, you can basically just hold down buttons and stuff and it will,
just bat it away.
Or a Sith rather. But yeah, I mean, Fallen Order to me looked very cool it looked cool from the trailer. The gameplay footage was enough for me to go, yeah, you know what? This is day one for me. I'll be on it. I'll be all over that.
Same.
I don't know whether it will be Xbox or PlayStation. We shall see, I guess. It doesn't really matter at this point.
I don't think it matters in the slightst. No. One will be £1 cheaper than the other one, and that'll be the one you buy.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, popping it raised no fool. So, Vesuvi, hopefully that answers your question. Thank you very much for writing in, as always, and hopefully the gap wasn't too disruptive for you.
Yeah.
So our next message comes from...
Wait. Is it possible that Vesuvi went on holiday to Italy that week?
That would explain several things.
It would.
Yeah. So our next message comes from Matthew Gilbert.
Hello.
Matthew writes, "Hello all, hope you're all well. My question for you all is, how would you make someone underserved in the Star Wars universe more badass or intriguing? My thought goes straight to Captain Phasma. In the opening village scene on Jakku, replacing her first reveal on screen being her marching forward towards Kylo and taking orders, to instead be her performing a flanking maneuver on the village with a small squad of troopers. The villagers are so distracted with what's happening ahead of them, they fail to look to their sides. I mean, after all, they seem to be just villagers. Who would you pick?" I mean, Phasma's a good shout.
Phasma, yeah, but it's how you do it is what he's asking.
Yeah, for sure.
Undeserved. How do you make someone a bit more underserved? I read that as undeserved. It's not. It's
originally, I thought I'd left a typo in and almost changed it to undeserved.
Undeserved. Well, let's run through some characters we think don't get enough screen time or enough of a presence, and then think about how we can beef that up a bit. So, sort of top of my head, I think the Imperial Guard aren't shown to be hard enough. They're just kind of passed off as Tower Guards or the Swiss Guard, these kind of ceremonial guys. But obviously the Swiss Guard and the Tower Guard are exceptionally highly trained soldiers, and it would have been nice to see these guys actually do a bit of something.
Yeah.
Because we are supposed, I mean, certainly in Legion and Imperial Assault, they are nails.
Yeah.
And all the movies, all we see is two of them bang red on a wall. That's all we see.
Yeah, you'd think that, bearing in mind they're responsible for guarding the most powerful person in the galaxy, they're probably, you would hope at least, that they would be capable in the scrap. You know?
But it'd be nice to see a little bit of that. Even... I guess the reason they don't do a lot in Jedi is because having them in the room would have just been weird when that whole interplay between the Darths and Luke is going on.
I suppose so. Yeah, you'd think about
unless you're going to get a code of cuts and kind of looking at each other awkwardly.
Yeah.
I mean, the closest you obviously in Last Jedi you have that bit where they kind of ignite the weapons and step forward. It looks like Snoke's being threatened.
Yeah, which you thought
something like that would have been good, I guess. IG-88 needs to get more screen time in general.
I think that'd be a good shout.
Because he's awesome. And I think it's now hitting the point, one of the few parts of the old expanded universe I wish they'd make canon again was the multiple IG-88s from Tales of the Bounty Hunters, because it was such a great story and it made him my favourite bounty hunter.
Okay.
So little bit of badass and intriguing IG-88 would be good.
How would you do that? I have a thought that kind of sprung to me as you were describing it, but I would be interested to hear yours. I think it would have been cool when Boba Fett was pursuing the Falcon to see them kind of scrapping for position. Maybe he, you'd have to kind of do it before the Falcon does the claw maneuver.
Yeah,
because obviously
there is a destroyed IG droid in the Ugnaughts room, isn't there? Kind of implying Boba Fett's fragged him.
Kind of, yeah. But I feel like if you had, something maybe before that point, say you kind of have to time it before the Falcon does the claw maneuver, because you want it to be still made clear that Boba Fett's one-upped him, rather than, it's a really obvious move that anybody can telegraph.
Yeah, okay.
You want Boba Fett to have kind of thought outside the box to make that work. And that's kind of how I read that scene currently.
Yeah.
And you want to retain, ideally, I guess, the rules of this game would be you don't want to do it at the expense of an existing character.
That's very true, yeah.
It's like what Matt described with Phasma doesn't detract from any main characters, because it's just showing military prowess against people who are probably not prepared for it, which is fair.
Yeah.
They are just villagers, and I think some of the Church of the Force maybe is my understanding.
Yes, yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Yeah, so I don't think, I think that works, and it doesn't take away from what's there currently. Whereas, like something with IG-88, you need to have a little, maybe like a little mini space battle or something, just like a little dogfight, and maybe he clips him and he sort of skulks off, rather than destroying him, because obviously you haven't got the time to then establish that IG-88 comes out of it unscathed in the long run, because maybe there's more of him, like you said. You want to get everything you need to do done in that scene before the Falcon turns up and does the claw thing. So something like that I feel like might work for an IG-88 purposes. I'm trying to think of other characters that might be better served.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's... I hate to say it, because, he's good in it, but I don't know that I don't think of him as underserved so much as not really in it much.
Maybe just like a shot of him really, really efficiently using a coffee machine.
That works. That would also, it would kind of correct it would retcon some of our anecdotes, make them a bit less...
the CSW Expanded Universe, yeah.
Yeah, it make them a little less kind of, sad sounding, because they are a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe...
who are the underserved characters, really?
I mean, Jango Fett. You can make the argument for Jango Fett, I think.
Yeah, you really can. He's supposedly the toughest bounty hunter in the world, and we're just kind of told. I mean, he can kind of hold his own against Jedi as long as they don't get him from behind. And it's...
But I mean, even then, he gets, one-on-one with Mace Windu, he gets he gets attacked by one of the animals, doesn't he? Which is kind of throws him off.
Yeah. But
it just seems like you could have kept him, you could have kept him alive in 2 and killed him off in the Clone Wars or Episode 3. There doesn't, the death in 2, for me, doesn't add anything apart from the desperate need to retcon Boba Fett into the Clone Wars series, which I know they did.
Yeah.
But, I feel like you could pace that out and have him die somewhere in Episode 3 or in the Clone Wars, and it would still have the resonance for Boba Fett's career trajectory.
I mean, I like Boba Fett fine as a character, but I didn't need Jango Fett or Boba Fett in Episode 2 at all.
No, No, you really.
It could have
the only
been
thing.
it could have been any. Just make a new character, and that's who they've cloned from. This just unreal type character. That's fine.
The only thing I think it does do.
No, it was just back from that time where everyone was related to everyone else, so they had to put Boba Fett in there.
Yeah, the only thing I would say it might. You could argue it does is it emphasizes the strength of the clones.
Yeah. Okay.
By having them be, by having them sort of tie into a character that we understand. And we can relate to. I mean, we can relate to him to a point, although the argument is pretty reasonable that Boba Fett's not all that in a bag of chips.
Yeah.
Which, maybe you can correct that if you go back to, do this, if you carry out this exercise that we're doing right now, maybe you can kind of approach the Boba Fett problem and sort of make it a bit less rubbish.
Do you know these companies you get, which suppose will, if you've got someone at work you don't like, they'll basically email them a glitter bomb. So they open up this box and just a load of glitter shoots everywhere.
Oh, yeah, another kind, yeah.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if Krennic sent one to Tarkin just before he died?
And you just look closely in the moment before the Death Star explodes, and you just see him covered in glitter with a really, looking really cross.
Yeah.
Evacuate? No moment of triumph? When I've got this parcel to open?
What was that bang?
Yeah.
This don't get any worse.
Yeah. Or son. That's who else but Quagmire. He's Krennic. You never really know what he's going to do next. Not much. Who else is there?
It's not a character. But
okay.
I'd have liked to have seen the Death Troopers do something.
That would have been cool. They were basically just...
Because they don't.
They were kind of just better shots than an average trooper. And that was their entire shtick.
Yeah, they're obviously Krennic's bodyguard, but it's not like they turn up again at the Battle of Scarif. It's just that farm shot you see from it, isn't it?
No, they drop off. There's a couple that drop in that end up getting killed by Baze.
Okay.
And then a couple of them go up with Krennic towards the top of the spire, but they get taken out by, I think, Cassian before they all get up there, which is when Cassian gets knocked off the gantry and you think he's dead.
If you know what I mean, yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean literally. You think he's dead. They make it look like he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't joke about Cassian being dead.
Just like make a show of the Death Troopers actually taking people out a bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or being better equipped than the Stormtroopers, anything really.
Yeah.
They just kind of stood around looking cool as their superpower. And that's a perfectly valid superpower in Star Wars. I mean, Boba Fett's been writing that
it's more than I've got. Yeah. In Star Wars context, I mean, I don't know if I don't know if I even sound cool. I mean, that's not for me to judge.
No, it isn't. I mean, the iTunes reviews seem to think you're all right.
Just meant no.
Yeah.
No, that's my answer.
Oh, would I be so cruel? Yes.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Beyond that, I'm reaching after that because my brain's going, Sarlacc, does he need backstory?
No, I think you're good. I think they give you enough. Yeah. I think you get enough backstory from 3PO's description.
Yeah, pretty much.
You don't want to be in there. Whoa.
Yeah.
Basically, that's the gist of it. Or you don't want to be in there. Oh, let me tell you. It ain't good. And they're like, all right, we get it. It's like, no, really, I'm just saying it's but yeah, 3PO, we got it. Yeah, no, I'm just saying it's not good. Like some of the stories.
Lord Santeca, just have him take out a couple of stormtroopers so that even you get this little thing, he might actually escape, because when that scene kicks off, you're under no impression, you know he's going to get taken prisoner, killed or something.
Yeah.
If you'd seen him have a fighting chance, might have helped.
Yeah, at least kind of, or even have him be the one who fires that bolt that. Oh no, because then that's Poe, isn't it, that fires it? So you need that.
Yeah, I mean, Kylo could probably do it twice. It's just overplayed by that point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is, I mean, it's the fact that he does it in the first place is really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the reason, I guess, is because one, you've never seen anybody do it before, even though it's been established since then that what's his name in Jedi Fallen Order does it at one point.
Does he?
Yeah. So, I mean, they've, never let it be said that the video games don't take a really cool thing from the universe and milk it to death. Because it's been known.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'll be everywhere.
Yeah.
So I like how it's done in Rogue One, where Vader catches it and throws it back.
Yeah, I liked that because in one move they kind of establish that Vader's more powerful than Kylo because he can hold and basically absorb the energy and just kind of fire it back out, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
But, it's the corridor scene from Rogue One, so of course I did.
Yeah.
That's pretty standard.
So good.
Yeah. So, who are we picking? Who's our pick? I mean, I'm going to say, I think it's fair to say Krennic.
Krennic's good. I agree with Matt, sorry, that it's. I actually think Captain Phasma was the best shout for one who actually, especially with how good the Captain Phasma comic and the Captain Phasma novel, more that having read and enjoyed those over the past couple of months, the way she's Boba Fetted so badly in Last Jedi has actually annoyed me more.
Yeah,
there were stories there was conflict there, and it was just kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, because being harsh to your second-tier characters is a really, really Star Wars thing to do.
Apparently.
But, that's why I've kind of come to terms with the way they kill off Akbar. Every time I see someone now complaining, he should have done the whole limit. I'm like, actually, just a well-loved character just being killed in an offhand manner is actually really quite Star Wars, so it's fine.
Yeah. It's, I know there was a little bit of news about that. I think Tim Rose was quoted as saying he was quite upset by seeing, that it was kind of done so glibly, I guess is the best word. But, if they'd wanted his feedback on it, I guess they'd have asked.
Yeah.
I don't mean that to sound harsh. I realise it does, but, he's probably, the way it's done is kind of not great. But like you say, it's not uncommon.
But
it's what it's.
You can't say it doesn't fit in with the saga.
Sith happens, as they say.
Yeah.
P.S.
You've got a better death scene than Captain Panaka.
That is very true. Yeah. Who? What is he killed on the landing platform?
No, I think he's just written out.
Is he just written off? Okay.
Yep. We never mention him ever again.
No.
Replace him with Don Cheadle, as is standard practice these days.
So, we have. I don't know. Did we actually pick one?
I agree with Phasma. If I had free choice, I would go for the Death Troopers.
All right, that's a good shout. I'm gonna agree with you on that one.
Okay, cool. That saves time.
P.S. How do you enjoy a cup of tea? I'm an English breakfast guy. No milk or sugar.
Earl Grey, no milk or sugar.
All right. I enjoy.
Yourself?
I've recently gained a taste for lemon and ginger tea.
Oh yes,
but that's partly because I've had a sore throat, which obviously it does.
Gives you throat, gives dodgy stomach as well.
Yeah, I don't know if it actually does anything, but it makes me feel like it's doing something, which is all I really need.
Yeah. Pavlovian medicine, love it.
Yeah, well, I think it's just the soothing element of the hot liquid is probably all I actually need. But obviously, if I drink too many coffees, I can't sleep for days. So there's that.
Good times.
Yeah, indeed.
I assume.
Yeah, sure. Otherwise, I quite like green tea. I'm quite, if I go for lunch somewhere, with Asian cuisine, it's always nice to have a pot of green tea and just kind of enjoy it alongside. It's always nice.
Yeah.
Matt continues, PPS. I know Brad has a distaste for PSs. This is just a troll. Fun. Yeah.
That's right.
Oh, it said, I know Brad has a distaste for PSs, so this is just a troll. So he's actually just added two PSs just for giggles.
I'll get you killed it.
All the best to you guys and everyone else listening. Matt in Melbourne.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for writing in. I enjoyed that.
It's always lovely to hear from you.
I hope you guys did too.
Yeah, indeed. So our next message comes from Mark Airy, who obviously wrote into us last episode regarding Star Wars tabletop gaming. So Mark starts by saying, first off, thank you for taking time not only reading my question out, but answering it so perfectly. I have since subscribed to the E14 YouTube channel. Please subscribe to mine in return, Blue Harvest Vintage. And apart from actually seeing what Brad looks like, not what I'd imagined, he gives no further detail on this.
Am I offended by that? I don't know.
I don't think it's intended either way.
Is he looking at my dad and thinking that's me?
Maybe. Who knows? I mean, there's worse things to be compared
I get that
to.
a lot.
Yeah, there's worse comparisons. And like you say, it's not uncommon as a comparison goes. It's a fantastic channel, and I've learned so much. I would heartily agree, Mark.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah, I would encourage listeners to go to Emotionally 14's YouTube channel and make your own mind up, preferably with a subscription and watching several videos.
Yeah.
I have taken your comments on board, no pun intended.
Cool.
I still haven't decided which game to buy, and I'm still researching.
That's totally fair, because our answer was basically they're all awesome.
Yeah. So he continues, Rebellion seems great, but seems to lack in-depth tactics. I may be wrong, and as I say, I'm still researching. I like the look of Legion, and X-Wing is still an option. Anyway, as you probably won't want to talk about it for a third week, here's a question or observation. Why is there so much love for Rogue One? I feel it lacks real characterization, a cohesive plot, and chemistry between the actors. I remember thinking, don't kiss at the end, and I wasn't bothered that they died. Wow. The first third of the film travels to more planets than any other Star Wars movie and has to have name tags to help you keep up. The plus points probably overweigh the minus, to be honest. Eye candy with Diego and Felicity. I mean, that's fair. The end battle, Krennic and Vader, badass Vader, which I think is the reason people think this is a great movie. It's boring. And yes, A New Hope did start slow, but there was substance to the story. Let me be straight. I think this is a good movie. It's not Episode 2, but it's also not Jedi. I just don't think it's as good as people think. But as all things in life, it's personal opinion. What a boring world it would be if we all loved the same things. That's it for now.
Shut up.
That's it for now. Keep up the good work, Mark. So, what do you make of his thoughts? I mean, it's clear. I mean, obviously, he prefaces by making clear that we're not going to agree. We know this.
No,
so
that's fair.
Taking that out of the equation.
Everyone has. I know some people Rogue One's their least favourite movie. I just don't talk to them. It's a question, and I actually, I'm happy to talk about Star Wars gaming week in, week out, and in fact, I do. That's part of the thing I do for E14.
Yes,
so don't ever apologise for making me talk Star Wars tabletop gaming, because if I'm not filming Fire already, chances are I'm just playing a Star Wars game anyway.
That is also fair.
It's what I do.
Yeah, it's so much fun. Why would you not?
If in terms of the in-depth tactics of Rebellion, if you're looking for like a skirmish level game, and it definitely isn't that.
No.
It's the mini quests and the adventures that the main characters go on are very much for focus, and then you've got these large battles taking place in the backdrop.
Yeah.
If you want more, if you are looking for more like a skirmish fighting game, then Imperial Assault or Legion or X-Wing is probably more what you're looking at. Or possibly, if you don't want to do a miniatures thing, there's loads of Fantasy Flight does a lot of pen and paper RPGs as well.
That's true.
And they do some starter. I haven't played them because I still have the D6 West End Games Star Wars RPG, which is an engine I like, so I tend to stick with that one. But they do a lot of starter kits for their various systems.
Yeah, they're very well supported in that respect.
Very fairly priced if you want to try out one of their starter kits as well. That'd be.
Yeah, for sure.
Worth you taking a look at.
Yeah.
So another thing for you to research as well, and as always, shoot us any questions about Star Wars Tabletop Gaming, either to talk Star Wars or to Fire when ready. We'll be happy to discuss it on the show.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like if you like tactics, as in like strategy and stuff, Armada's probably better. It's interesting that he's kind of leaned away from that one. I suppose the tactics in Armada are quite particular because you have to plan a few turns in advance. Yeah, to a point. I
guess because when he says tactical, it's because in wargaming there's different levels, and tactical is like a scale, if that makes sense. So
I see.
You've at the highest level, you've got strategic or sometimes grand strategic, which is something like Rebellion or Risk, where you're moving armies around.
Okay.
Below that is operational, where you're pushing battalions and platoons around, which is where something like Armada is.
Yeah.
Below that is tactical, which is pushing squads and maybe one or two vehicles around, which is Legion or X-Wing. And then even below the most zoomed in is skirmish, which is something like Imperial Assault or a small game of bolt action, something like that. So then when he said tactics, that's where my brain went. But you're right.
Okay.
There is a lot of tactics in Armada, but that was the direction my brain went in. Sorry.
I mean, that may be how Mark intends the comment. I don't know. Obviously, I can't. I can only read what's in front of me.
Totally.
In-depth tactics is his wording.
Yeah.
So I say, for me, that seems more like an Armada thing.
Yeah. Armada is very strategic, very tactical game. There's a lot of forward planning.
It requires a bit more, yeah.
Yeah, which is why some people, that tends to be the litmus test for people whether they love or don't get on with Armada so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, on to Rogue One and why Mark is wrong. There's no real characterization or cohesive plot or chemistry between the actors. I can't agree.
I would agree. I would agree in part. I guess it just bothers me less than it bothers Mark. Okay. I think the first act is all over the place. I agree there.
I agree the first part jumps around a lot, but it does need to.
I realise it's a certain... Yeah. It is a certain necessary evil.
I think. I agree it is... Rogue One, the first time I saw it, it took me kind of until around Nien turned up to get my head around it. It did seem to jump around a lot to me, and I wasn't sure I liked it. But yeah, I agree. The first bit does jump around a lot. I can't agree it lacks characterization. As I've said before, I genuinely believe Krennic's one of the greatest design characters in Star Wars or anything else, because he's intensely unlikable. He's not
complex,
a bad guy like Darth Sidious.
Yeah.
He's not a Machiavellian villain like Darth Sidious, and he's like that line manager you hate. That's Krennic.
That's a good description, actually. Yeah,
he is. He's quite a. You're supposed to not like Vader and Sidious because of it. But you're not supposed to like General Grievous because they're bad guys. But in Star Wars, they're quite Sidious and General Grievous in particular. General Grievous almost twirls his moustache sometimes. They're quite pantomime villains,
especially Sidious in 3.
Krennic is not. Krennic is the co-worker you genuinely hate because he's self-serving and scheming and trying to get what's best for him the whole time at the expense of literally everything else.
I think that makes him quite relatable, though.
It does. It makes him relatable. It makes him more earthbound, I guess.
Yeah.
That's why I genuinely think Krennic is one of the best characters in anything in a long time. I think Jyn Erso and her relationship with her father is brilliant. I mean, father figures are a recurring thing with Star Wars anyway, but that kind of turn when she realises how much he did care is brilliant.
That is good. I really like that.
You can't tell me K2 doesn't have great characterisation.
He has great lines. I don't know about whether that's the same thing.
There's a nature reserve down the road, isn't it?
You know what I mean, though? It's like... I was having a discussion with somebody today and they said, so-and-so is great at arguing. And I said, well, actually, you say that, but how often do you find that they make the same argument? If they're making the same argument verbatim over and over again, they're not good at arguing. They're just combative. Because if they were good at arguing, they'd have won before now. Yeah. They wouldn't keep having to do this. Maybe I'm wrong, but, debate me.
I feel it's a pretty cohesive plot, to be honest. In fact, I love how it finally fixes that plot hole.
Which one?
Why has the Death Star got a weak point?
Right. Okay.
That's brilliant. That ties that all in. It's I think Rogue One's incredibly cohesive. Everything's tied up and wrapped up and blown up at the end of the movie. Chemistry between the actors is more subjective.
Sure.
From viewer to viewer, I guess. I had no problems with it. I thought Krennic and Tarkin were amazing together.
Oh yeah, they were. I enjoyed them a lot.
Yeah, I thought Chirrut and Baze Malbus were great. There's a lot of genuine love. There's a lot of genuine love between those two. It really comes across.
Yeah.
So I remember thinking, don't kiss at the end, and I wasn't bothered that they died.
I mean, to be fair, he got his wish because they didn't kiss at the end.
Yeah, I didn't want them to kiss at the end. I thought
it was fine that they didn't. I thought it was also, to be fair, if they had gone down that route, I would have also been like, okay. for me, it was done well enough that it didn't matter.
Yeah,
like it could have been, it could have happened, and it'd have been like, yeah, that makes sense, or it could have not happened, and that could have made sense too.
I'm glad it didn't, because it would have been very Hollywood for them too, because there was no real romantic interplay with them beforehand.
No,
it was almost just like the Hollywood thing of, well, we've got the main man and the main woman must fall in love.
They
didn't need to.
No.
And I think it was stronger for not falling into that cliche.
Yeah, maybe.
The first third of the film travels all over the place. My battery on my phone's just died, so I'm tagging you in to reread the rest of it.
That's fine. So, the first third of the film,
tradition.
The first third of the film travels to more planets than any other Star Wars movie and has to have name tags to help you keep up. I agree with this. The first third is all over the place.
As I said, I think we just touched on this. I think it's a necessary evil.
Yes,
but I do agree it's a problem.
Yes, I think for me, what rescues it is the strength of the third, because the final third of the film is superb.
The first third is there's a lot of stage setting going on with it, and how they're going to bring all these characters, and it is necessary because we need to know who Krennic is. We need to know what their working relationship is. Krennic's an integral character to the story of the Death Star, who we've never seen before, and that has to be put into context. Similarly, Jill and Galen are incredibly important, and we need to be given context of that. So it is messy and it is unwieldy, but if we didn't do it, you complain it was just dropped in with no explanation of who his characters are. It's a really, really tough call. Yeah,
I think, ultimately I'm trying my best to avoid using things like, it is good, that's great. Like, I'm trying to make it clear that it's more about a subjective thing, because ultimately that's all we're talking about at this point, isn't it? I mean, we're just, for some people this movie lands, and for some people it doesn't. I mean, box office wise, it did well. It didn't light the world on fire. It got about, I think, half the takings of Force Awakens, which is fine. I mean, I'm sure they would by no means consider that a failure, nor should they.
It wasn't marketed towards kids the same way. It wasn't marketed as a family movie. That would be the big difference in ticket sales.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a factor for sure. Yeah. But it's, it doesn't, I'm sure, like I say, I'm sure they don't look at it as in any way a commercial failure, because that would be a hard one to justify. And, it doesn't have the same resonance, I think, with casual fans. Not that I'm suggesting that Mark is by any means a casual fan, because if if you can talk to Mark for 10 minutes about Star Wars, and he is a fan. That is clear. So all I mean to say is it doesn't land with casual fans, generally speaking, which I think is also a contributing factor towards why it didn't do the box office revenue of something like The Force Awakens, because you don't get as many repeat viewings if it doesn't land with the casual fans, because the really kind of invested Star Wars fans are going to go and see these movies twice, 3 times, and they don't have to, like, Lucasfilm don't have to do anything to make that happen. Because people are going to, I make a point of it, even the films of the ones they've done so far that I haven't really liked that much, I've seen more than once, because you almost have to, I've bemoaned it a little bit, and I still do think it's a little bit unfortunate, but you do have to go and see it a second time, because you can kind of evaluate it slightly more without all the surprises and stuff. All the twists and turns have been laid out. All the cards have been played, and you can then go back in and go, okay, so what do I think of it just as it is? Because you're not being swept up in that whole, oh, they did what? He said that? Like, he's who? That kind of, Tarkin's in it. Yeah. That stuff. And also, for Rogue One as well, I had to go and see it again because I had to decide what I thought of Giacchino's score. Because it jarred enough that I thought, I don't know how I feel about this, and it took the second viewing to go, no, this works. This works perfectly for me, and I didn't know if it didn't really affect me first time, and I think I was too distracted. It's been a grower for me over time, that soundtrack anyway. Oh, it's one of my favourites. Yeah, it's very. I think it's very, very good. But it's one of those ones that did kind of initially on the first viewing made me go, yeah, that is different. Yeah, I do love that opening sting Yes.
It's because everyone was like, "Oh, it's not going to be John Williams. What's it going to be like?" And it's almost like it goes, "I'm here, get used to it."
Yeah. It's just a kind of, like you say, it's just there, and it's like it does. It's the easiest way to handle. How are we going to handle it? I've done it now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, just rip the plaster off.
Yeah, pretty much. So, in terms of why does it? I think kind of coming back to the sort of original, the kind of intonation of the question. So, why does it land so hard with a lot of fans? I think part of it is the tone is in many ways bleaker probably than. I mean, I'd say even it kind of rivals Empire in bleakness.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah,
I think that lands for a lot of fans. That kind of Empire tone. A lot of people, Empire is still the highest regarded film by a large chunk of fandom. Mm-hmm. And I think the reason is because a lot of fandom appreciates as some of them have grown into the franchise. Maybe they've started with. I mean, like for us, it was the kind of special editions. Was our first trip to the cinema to see them.
Yeah,
certainly. So we've kind of grown up into them, and over time, I feel like my favorite has kind of evolved from Jedi. It's kind of changed from Jedi to Empire as I've gotten a bit older and have started to enjoy. I don't necessarily have to have a happy ending to enjoy a film as I've got older. So I didn't. Yeah, I mean that too, but. But I think over time I've found myself less keen on a satisfactory resolution to a story in an upbeat sense. Mm-hmm. And some of my favorite films, even something like, I mean, this sounds like a really weird pull for a not entirely happy ending, but something like Mrs. Doubtfire, which is a favorite of mine, as many people who've listened to the show will know. Yeah. That doesn't end particularly cheerfully. Mm-hmm. It's basically the gist of the film is basically, look, we don't like each other, but there's more important things. Mm-hmm. And that's a perfectly reasonable ending in terms of it's a good ending because everybody kind of gets sort of what they want, but it's enough of a sort of downer that it's like, but it's not like a Hollywood ending like you were saying. And I think Rogue One doesn't have that Hollywood ending, and actually it very nearly did, but it was Disney, I think, initially who were like, no, I mean, everybody's got to kind of die for this to work. Because I think, I want to say Gary Whitta was saying that, initially the first draft, they sort of, convoluted some solution where Jyn and Cassian made it off the planet. And I think, if I remember correctly, hearing somewhere that the tie that came up in this shot that was in the trailer and never used in the film was a fake out, and it was Cassian inside, and they used that tie to get off planet.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but that was what I remember hearing shortly afterwards.
Seems cromulent, yeah.
Yeah, you can totally believe it from listening to, from watching the film and kind of going, yeah, okay, where else would that? How else would that work in the context of the movie? So yeah, I mean, what's your take on why it kind of lands so heavily with a lot of the with fandom?
I think the reason it was the timing of it for a lot of people as well. Force Awakens came out and was about getting new younger fans involved, because that's the reason Disney bought the Star Wars brand.
Sure.
And also it got people who were young or older Star Wars fans re-excited about Star Wars again. And Rogue One was kind of like the counterweight to that. It was very much for the Star Wars fans who have grown up.
Yeah.
And it was, I know a lot of the comment I kept hearing at the time it came out was this was a Star Wars prequel we wanted.
Right.
And I think maybe the people who were disappointed that the prequels were kids' movies rather than what they were, the Star Wars movies for Star Wars fans who had grown up.
Yeah.
They kind of wanted that. And I think it fills a niche which had previously only really been filled by some of the novels of the old expanded universe, which were generally more adult-oriented than the films were.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think it kind of brought that feeling that kind of Vector Prime downer feeling to a wider audience. Okay. And obviously with that, there comes a notion that a lot of people who went on to see it had no idea it was going to be like that and were really surprised that they liked it.
Yeah, I think I was right there with them. I came out of that going, wow, that was quite a bit different than I thought that was going to go. I didn't anticipate that they would kill everybody off. I figured they would find a way to bring Jin off planet or do something along those lines.
In fact, if anything, they did the opposite and resurrected Peter Cushing.
Yeah, exactly. They brought people back from the dead.
Yeah.
Just to spite me in many ways. But the joke's on them because I predicted the whole thermal exhaust port thing.
You
before
did,
the film came out,
clinging on to that still there.
Yeah, it's about the only thing I've ever got that nailed before something came out to that degree, or at least the one that was recorded.
That's fine. It's the fact you had a trophy made is depressing.
Well, there was an offer on. I had almost basically it was a few more quid for Prime delivery, and it seemed like as good a thing as any to pop in the basket. I'm good for cables. I don't need more USBs. I've got every type of connector under the sun, and I've got multiples of some of them. It just seemed like, you know what? What I don't have is a lot of trophies, and read into that what you like. Yeah. So, Mark, thank you for your thoughts on Rogue One. As I say, ultimately, everybody kind of get something different out of these films. Yeah, that's fair to say. And you rightly point out, Mark, if everybody agreed about everything, the world would be a very boring place. Sometimes I do feel like it'd be nice if few people agreed on something, but
like if everybody dug Primus or something.
Yeah, just some sort of universal thing would be
universal leveler.
One thing. Yeah, universal leveler. Like we can all agree Rush is awesome or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I know we agree on that, but just say, if everybody agreed on that, just like you say, one universal leveler would be a good one. What
are the universal levelers? It's just pizza and Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I think so. But actually, let's throw this one out there. So, listeners, I want to hear from you on this one. If there is a universal leveler in Star Wars, or as close to one as you can get, what is it? Answers on an email. Okay. podcast@emotionally14.com. I'll put the call out to the patrons as well. And I'll, kind of remind them. I want to hear some thoughts on this because I feel like there must be one, and I'm spacing on what it might be.
Everyone wants a lightsaber.
Lightsabers are cool. Might be a good one, actually.
Yeah,
but I feel like there's something.
I would never be trusted with one.
Absolutely not. No, I'd lose limbs within the hour. Maybe even within the first activation.
I'd trim the hedge and just start a fire.
Yeah. I see lightsabers being cool is a good one. I feel like there's something deeper, maybe. But I want to hear some thoughts on that. So that's the not a challenge because obviously listeners are welcome to play at home if they want to. Or failing that, we'll just come up with a few for next time. But podcast@emotionally14.com. Let us know your thoughts, much like Mark and everybody did as well. So just thought I'd chuck that in there. So our last message for this week comes from a different Mark, which is Mark with a K, a.k.a. the Bantam Menace. Hello again. Like the Emperor, I'm back, maybe? It's the return of the Bantam Menace. Hope you're both well.
Yeah. You?
I'm guessing so.
They never reply.
No. So I was listening to something about Solo the other day, and it reminded me of an article I recently read about how Han was misused in Return of the Jedi. It got me thinking they might be right. Han in the first two films is a confident hero stroke scoundrel, but in Return of the Jedi he spends most of the time being a bit of a buffoon. Rather than being the butt of most of the jokes, I feel there was a real missed opportunity for Han. He could have, for example, delivered the final hit on the Death Star rather than fighting with teddy bears and coming across like a bit of a clown. What do you think? There's another bit coming to this, but the second part.
No, we'll break it down.
No, the second part hasn't got a question, so I might as well read it.
Oh, okay. Fine.
On another note, I rewatched the 2 Ewok movies the other day. Are they as bad as you remember? Yes, if you're an adult, but probably good fun for kids.
They're pretty bad.
Although no longer canon, it did provide more background on Ewoks and showed them as more of a warrior race than cuddly bears.
Yeah, one of the big monster from the first one has turned up in Forces of Destiny, so it got recanonised. Vesuvi wrote in a few weeks ago and told me what it was called, and it's popped out my head again.
It's often the way. And in the second film, they completely undo the first film by killing off the whole family in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah, it get totally Alien 3 for the opening 5 minutes of the second movie. Yeah,
I'm sure that was what they were shooting for. We're going for the Alien 3 thing. It's like there's an Alien 3, like not yet.
The kids are going to love it. I hope.
I know the film was meant for kids, and Lucas did them for his daughter, but some of the story decisions are quite odd.
Yeah, they really are.
On the plus side, just picked up my Kylo Vanity Fair. All the best, Mark, aka the Banter Menace. P.S. The Porg still has no head. So, to recap, for those who haven't heard from Mark in a little while,
it sounds like some sort of Cold War spy mail drop when he says something like that.
I feel like we should have been.
Still has no head. Yes,
I feel like
the wind is always strong.
It should have been on a we should have been in the multi-story car park having lights flashed at us as somebody told us that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was building a big Lego Porg, as you recall.
He was, horrifying.
The horrifying, and apparently he's taken steps to keep it that way for the time being.
Yeah,
so.
He's going full Cenobite.
Good times. Han Solo in Return of the Jedi, what's your take?
I don't know how much I agree, because he's actually kind of buffoonish in the earlier two movies.
He has his moments, for sure.
Yeah, throughout most of A New Hope, he's pretty much scared of everything he's doing. If you actually watch him, we're realising he is bluffing and posturing a lot of the time.
How much of that, though, is, because I know fandom retcons a lot of these things kind of after the fact. Like, a good example is, he was bluffing about the 12 parsecs thing, but Obi-Wan saw through it, which is why he gives him a look like he doesn't believe what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. It's like that, to me, is one of those fandom retcons that doesn't actually need to be there, because the parsec things, certainly the parsec thing's been recontextualized now, but it was, it wasn't a big deal then. Not really.
Yeah, I think it's just when people do stuff like that, I think it's more often a testament to how good an actor Alec Guinness was. Yeah,
exactly. It's just he has this, and the same, in the same vein,
he just does a vaguely skeptical, but not trying to draw attention to the fact he's being skeptical face, and it's very easy to project a lot of interpretation.
Yeah, I think that's it.
The other one that gets me is when
how did my father die?
It's when Luke says to him, "I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father," and he has this look on him just before the scene cuts away. And with the later events, it's very easy to kind of project that, like my father, bit into the look he has.
Let's try and make him you a better one than that.
Yeah, not too much like your father. Yeah. What do you mean? He was a navigator on a spice freighter. Shut up.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go with that. That's fine. Get in the car. Yeah, and in the same way, like the one about how did my father die, and he goes through the story of Anakin, and it's a testament once again, like you say, to the range of Alec Guinness, that somebody's been able to splice in the prequel as he's recapping it, and it looks like it fits.
I don't believe Alec Guinness had prior knowledge.
No,
because I don't believe that George Lucas had written that bit yet.
I think it's been fairly well established that he hadn't.
I think it's more he was very good at giving a performance that allowed you to project your own interpretation onto it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's kind of generally well understood. But like I say, I do sometimes think there's kind of some fandom retconning efforts that overstep and actually kind of cross into that's not, there's no reason to think that beyond the fact that you just think it'd be cool. Like
which is fine inside your own head, but don't edit it into a data bank or Wikipedia unless you're Pablo,
Yeah. Incidentally, speaking of the data bank and Wikipedia, did you see the other day that somebody canonized Coca-Cola because they sell it at Galaxy's Edge?
Yeah, I'm so angry about that. I know there's crass commercialization in Star Wars and has been since the opening night, but those cola bottles make me angry, and I can't justify why, but they do.
No. I'm curious as to why they look like Christmas baubles.
I'm curious why they look like thermal detonators.
That makes more sense to me than Christmas baubles. Because they shouldn't really have Christmas.
I wonder how big they are, because it don't look like you get a lot of Coke in there.
I mean, that sounds pretty consistent with my theme park experience.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah,
and $30,000 ago.
Yeah.
Which is to say,
credit's no good here.
Only money and crypto, I guess.
Yeah, I worry about the Coca-Cola. The Coca-Cola thing as a joke, as a bit of fun, a souvenir at a theme park is one thing. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to canonize it, and are we going to start getting Coca-Cola turn up in books? Are we going to get Coca-Cola turning up in Forces of Destiny?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think it's probably just, I'm hoping it's just a little bit of fun. It might even be, I haven't really looked into it, but it might even be one of those things where it's really easy nowadays, which is one of the reasons I find online news so problematic, or just kind of frustrating, I guess, is it's really easy. I did this the other day, to just open up the developer tools in your browser and just modify the text. It's really easy to just knock out a fake Wikipedia article, screenshot it and send it on. So that's the kind of thing it could have been. Somebody just doing that. I haven't had a chance to look into it, so I don't know if it's true or not. I just remember seeing a screenshot and thinking, oh man, that seems like an odd, an odd choice.
It's also more, it sets a precedent for me. Are we going to end up with KFC has got a Wikipedia page down the line?
I would have thought that they'll establish, much like Demolition Man, that Taco Bell is the one that wins.
You see what I mean, though? It just sets precedent. I don't absolutely like, but I am one grumpy English man who no one listens to.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that's, it's just one of those things that's just like a little throwaway gag, as it were. Just kind of a little silly thing, and that's fine. I would imagine that's hopefully all it. I would imagine that's all it is. I certainly hope there's no more kind of. I'd be very surprised if there were any more additions in that vein than that. It just seems like it would be odd to me if they went down the route of kind of crass and excessive commercialization, rather than there's things like we've touched on before in episode 2. There's American football style game being played. What they don't have is an NFL game or an NCAA. Is it the college football? Yeah. They don't have anything like that going on in the background. That sort of thing. So there's commercial kind of, there's like branding style stuff, but there's never actually been any kind of Earth brands, as it were. They touch on random stuff like that in the expanded universe, and I always found that a bit jarring.
It was.
Oh, it's called hot chocolate. And sod off.
Yeah. just said he made a drink. That's all you needed to do.
Exactly. Lando taught me to make it. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, get in the sea.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that I would imagine at least that's all it is. It's just a bit of a kind of a bit of a little throwaway thing that's not going to have any grand impact on the saga. Would you have preferred Han to be the one to blow the Death Star up rather than, say, Wedge and Lando? And Nien Nunb, let's not forget. I don't want to be racist.
Yeah. No. Lando needed to do something fully heroic to round off his redemptive character arc. Obviously, he, by helping Leia escape, by rescuing Han from Jabba's palace, that's there, but that kind of cements him as a hero doing that, assisted by Nien Nunb and Wedge.
Yeah, I'd say we don't want to be, exclusionary for any. We don't want it to be perceived as any bad intentions here,
Because if Han had done it, we already know Han's a great pilot. We already know Han's assisted in taking down one Death Star. Because he's doing something different in Jedi.
Yeah,
He's a ground commanding general. He was doing ground battles. It's a very different side to Han.
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree with the buffoon thing, because there's a lot of bumbling humour with him in Empire as well. But every time the Falcon misfires, it's not my fault thing. That's a buffoon, surely.
I don't know.
The Death Star charging along the corridor, runs into about 100 stormtroopers and then runs back the other way again. That kind of stuff's always.
That's a retcon buffoon thing, because that wasn't always that many. No,
but it was still. Yeah, they amplified the number of stormtroopers, but the scene was always there.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? That kind of buffoonish. He's going to get himself killed. line.
Yeah, the overly
I-
kind of, what's the word? The overly the over bravado and kind of overplaying
He's very
his hands.
cavalier.
Yeah.
And then having to just run away. I feel like that aspect. I don't feel like he's changed that much in that sense. I mean, what's buffoonish about him on Endor? Really,
snapping the twig and
snapping the twig.
Yeah.
Is it any worse than anything else he does in the previous two movies?
I don't. I guess not.
Does his fail a dexterity roll?
Yeah. I mean, if you roll dice like me, you pretty much field that exclusively.
Yeah.
It's just one of those
evidence of
just
this,
becomes par for the course, you know. I don't know. I think it comes back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, and it's kind of dovetailed nicely into that. Actually,
I'm still wondering what Mark thought I looked like.
I don't know. Maybe Mark Airy, right in.
Yeah,
drawing, even better. It kind of ties back nicely into what we were talking about at the top of the show about you can augment somebody's character up, but you don't want to do it at the expense of an existing thing. What you've just described about Lando is bang on. He needs to, he still feels like he needs to do something of significance to kind of, repay his debt to the rebels, even though he has actually done more than enough.
Well, in the Battle of Nunb, for starters.
Well, I mean, I don't know when that's supposed to have happened.
Sometime between Empire and Jedi.
I guess so, yeah. So, clearly he's done enough to...
He's got a sweet cape.
He has got a sweet cape, and we bang on about this stuff all the time, but I think it's one of those things that's easy to forget, that sweet capes maketh man. Or they certainly augmenteth man.
I agree.
Yeah.
I might get one. Maybe that's how Mark pictured me.
Maybe, yeah. But I think that's one of those examples where you could totally have Han fire the shot that destroys the second Death Star, and it would work if not for the fact that Lando is already doing it, and you need Lando to do it for a reason, for like a story. It serves a storyline purpose. I guess with Han, you could. I mean, this is the thing. Han's role on Endor is like him coming full circle from I'm not interested in your rebellion unless there's money in it for me, to leading ground troops in one of the more significant tactical elements of the whole war.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to say that same purpose couldn't be served by destroying the Death Star were you to not have Lando in that position already. He could still serve that purpose for him, I think, in terms of the character arc. It would still do the job, and he doesn't need somebody. He's not enabling somebody else to fire the shot that takes it out. He's doing it himself because now he's all in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then what are you doing with Lando?
Well, that's my point. If it wasn't for Lando, it would make perfect sense to put Han in that role, and everybody would be like, "Yeah, that makes sense. He's all in now," and he's it would still serve his purpose because Lando's in that position. That makes more sense for him to be there than it does for him to be on Endor. So it doesn't, it suddenly doesn't work. And at that point, you'd be sacrificing Lando's arc for the sake of Han's, and that's not quite it doesn't quite gel, So I think I don't necessarily. Let's say this is what I'm kind of coming to. I don't think Mark's wrong that you could put Han in that Death Star blowing up space and it would work. Where I think where it's kind of lost for me is that would be better than what we have, because I don't necessarily think that's true.
Yeah,
if you didn't have a Lando, maybe that still works and that's fine. Maybe Leia leads the troops, and that makes sense too, right?
Yeah, but then you've got Han and Leia separated, and that's not satisfying either.
No, exactly. Maybe you reunite them on Endor, and that's about it. So. The only way to make that work would be to kind of tease the idea that maybe one of them thinks the other one's dead or that sort of thing. And then they get sort of reunited at the end, and that's all lovely. And everybody's like, oh, which is how that works, I've heard. When it comes to specifically thinking people have been destroyed on a forest moon.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the studies say.
Yeah, exactly. All the data is pretty clear on that. It's not ambiguous. So I think, let's say, I don't think Mark's wrong in that Han would work in that position.
Mm-hmm.
But where I kind of detach from that idea is the idea that it would be better than what we have, which is Lando redeeming himself by being part of the, also taking care of some. And let's not forget as well that he's taking care of Han Solo's most treasured physical possession.
Nunb.
And, in the meantime, Han is actually kind of gaining a more important connection on the Forest Moon of Endor with Leia.
Mm-hmm.
So all this stuff it all makes sense because, Han's gone from he can't trust Lando to he can trust him with the most important thing in his life.
Nunb.
And obviously, I suppose not the most important thing because Chewie's with him.
Yeah.
But, he can trust Lando with his most prized possession. And something that's meant so much to him over the years, and also let's be fair, something that we now know whose previous owner before that was Lando.
I really want to retcon the original trilogy so that Nunb is Han's most valued possession. Just CG Nunb standing behind Han Solo in the first two movies, never saying anything, never interacting, just always there. That then explains his presence in Return of a Jedi.
Yeah, and you'd have to kind of go and refilm
no one else acknowledges he's there because he's just photoshopped in. Yeah. But he's there.
He is there. That's important. That is crucial to the plot. Well, it's not crucial to the plot even. That's the strength of this reshoot.
That's the strength of it, yeah.
Yeah, is that it would be, it would just make it clear without making it, just banging that drum too hard, But yeah, by the time Jedi ends, he's gone from I can't trust Lando because he's going to betray me to I can trust him with the most prized possession that used to belong to him immediately before it belonged to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, which again, like I say, with the context of Solo, we know the previous owner before Han was Lando. Yeah. So that's still, and that's still clearly kind of, that banter is still there between them and Empire. So clearly there's still that kind of friendly, like, oh, you got me that time kind of thing going on. Mm-hmm. So Mark, hopefully that answers the kind of the overall sentiment of the question, which is, why can't it be that? And I suppose that's the answer. Because then what Lando do? And sentence and stuff. Words.
Nunb. Yeah.
Nunb, yeah. So that's all our listener questions. Anything else kind of catch your eye in the Star Wars world recently?
I've been playing Battlefront.
Oh, cool. How are you finding it?
I'm bad at it. How are you at it?
I'm not great. I'm middle out at best.
I never make that top 5 thing at the end, but I'm usually pleased to know that the people who do get the top 5 I've killed at least once. So,
that's nice. Yeah.
I'm just kind of the low-key of Battlefront.
Could be. I mean, it could be.
I still mostly play Starfighter. I really enjoy the Starfighter.
Starfighter's great fun. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
I like the new Capital Supremacist fun, actually.
Okay. I don't know if I've played that yet. I might have to give that a go.
It's Battle Geonosis. Good one.
I'll have to have a look. I'm not sure if I've done it. Mm-hmm. But I'm thinking I might have to get into a Star Wars game soon. I've got quite a few, actually. I've got Bounty Hunter. Mm-hmm. I've got Republic Commando, KOTOR, all the Jedi Knights, all the Dark Forces games.
I'm not starting a new game until Man of Medan comes out for me.
Which one, sorry?
Man of Medan. It's the one that the guys who did Until Dawn are doing.
Oh, okay. Nice. That's a good, that will be good. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic that when they're not doing VR.
A copy of Outer Rim has arrived, so we're playing that on Saturday.
Oh, yes.
The file when ready, so there'll be a gameplay video.
Excellent.
Coming along very soon.
Lovely. Well, I look forward to seeing it. And, at some point playing it. Unfortunately, I can't make this one, but, at some point I look forward to giving it a go.
We'll make a play date.
Yeah, exactly.
Do a games cast.
Yeah, I mean, both of these things have been known to happen in the past, so one of them will no doubt be doable. But there you go. That's Talk Star Wars for this week. Episode 173. Sweet Capes Augmenteth the Man, maybe?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Or not, or just 9
Or 9 Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll just flip a coin and see what happens.
Yeah.
So if you've enjoyed the show and you wish to subscribe, then the good news is you can absolutely do that, and we would encourage it, in fact. And you can do that by finding us on all good podcast platforms. Some of the less good ones as well, we're there too. Just because, it makes sense to not restrict yourself, It makes
market.
Yeah, if we put ourselves everywhere, then theoretically everybody should love us, right? That's how it works.
Yeah, especially the Italians.
Absolutely, clearly, we're doing something right. So if you want to get questions in, or as I mentioned earlier on in the show, if you want to tell us if you think there is the deepest level of universal agreement that Star Wars fans have, then podcast at emotionally14.com, ideally with the subject Talk Star Wars, although I'm sure I can figure it out if not. Generally, there's a few key signs like the Force, lightsabers,
Vesuvi,
yeah, exactly, yeah. She's commented favourably on the Crazy Train, but never written in. So that's cool. Kind of the limit. So which is fair enough. That to be fair, I can't get that from everybody generally. So I'm quite happy to take it when it arrives.
But if you never listened to the most recent Crazy Train, it's amazing and well worth a listen.
I would agree, and I appreciate that. So podcast at emotionally14.com, and emotionally14.com, the website, is where you can find all the other stuff we do. So all the other podcasts, I mentioned the Crazy Train, the E14 Gamecast. If you like Star Wars and Tabletop, Fire When Ready is on YouTube. I've also got HeroClix UK if you like other games that are also on YouTube.
Yeah, and I probably should do more series, but I'm running out of time.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that if it hasn't already gone up by the time this episode, in fact, it won't have. So shortly after this goes live, there will be a new E14 Gamecast in the same week, and there will be a special new thing that we managed to successfully do, which didn't turn out terribly in the edit. So
is it a combat butler?
To that. It is not. No, sadly. It's been a combat butler once, and I think that was
more
good.
than most other platforms have achieved.
Exactly. A lot of places go for the combat butler saturation and just miss the mark so hard that you don't even know what they were aiming for when it happened. Yeah. So
if you don't listen to the Gamescast, this is all very funny.
Absolutely, yeah, hilarious. So if you do listen to the Gamecast, then look for a cool video on YouTube during the week.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yes. So social media, we're on them. Talk Star Wars on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Emotionally14 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There are groups for a couple of bits, pages for a couple of bits on Facebook. So join it up to everything. We love it, and we hope you do too. Speaking of social media, where would people find you if they were so inclined?
If you want to add me as a friend on Facebook, then you can do so at facebook.com/BradHarmerBarnes. If you prefer to do the Twitter and or Instagram thing, then you can follow me on at RealBradHB. You can, as mentioned previously, multiple times throughout the episode, because, free publicity, do a YouTube series called Fire When Ready, for which you can find at emotionally14.com, and you can follow them on Instagram at FireWhenReadyUK. If you want to help me keep the lights on, then you can buy my books at Audible and Amazon.
Yes, you can. And you can do so via Emotionally14's Team E14. There's a little bit about Brad, and underneath there are a few little links, and you can click those and go to the books. Yeah, it's quite handy.
Buy them.
Yeah, quite handy in that respect. Buy them with your hands, read them with your face.
That's the tagline I'm going for.
I'll listen to them with
your. Get it wrong way around.
So buy them with your hands, listen to them, read them with your face, and listen to them with a different bit of your face.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah,
got
there
it.
You go.
Box it, ship it.
Here you go. Got an even better one. Buy them with your hands, read them with your face, listen with your side face.
No. Box it, ship it.
Yep, nice. So you can find me on social media at Rob Wade Vision. Twitter and Instagram are the places where I don't do a lot of stuff, but if I do, it's there. So they're where you can go to find my stuff, and obviously I do tweet out about the various things that Emotionally14 is doing as well. So
some would say that's the bulk of your Twitter.
I would say that's absolutely fair to say, because it is, and I make I don't even think people would expect me to apologise for it, to be honest. No. But even if they did, I don't know why I would.
No, why would you?
Indeed, it's my thing. So social media, we've done all that stuff. Obviously, we are one of the wonderful podcasts in the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, which is now 8 wonderful shows, or 8 wonderful outlets, some of whom have more than one show. Some of them have got Patreons. Speaking of which, if you want to speaking of keeping the lights on, if you want to keep the lights on and help us to, cover our running costs and so on, then patreon.com/talkstarwars is where you can donate as little as $1 a month or whatever you care to give in exchange for an ad-free version of the show, which drops a couple of days earlier to start your weekend off the right way.
Sounds good.
So, the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network contains Talk Star Wars, obviously, representing Emotionally 14, Tumbling Saber, the Generation X-Wing podcast, the Nerd Room podcast, the Rogue Squadron podcast, the San Diego Sabres radio podcast, Retro Inc. podcast, and the Sandcrawler cast with Dan and Mike. So those 8 fantastic outlets are all available on the web at StarWarsCommonwealth.com, and you can find them all around the web and take your first steps into a larger world. Thanks very much for listening to Talk Star Wars, episode 173. We will see you again next week for episode 174. Until then, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and may the Force be with you.